An AI answer can be polished, specific, and completely wrong. Let that just sink in for a moment. This is a powerful premise from Joy Chen, and honestly, it's exactly why we're here right now. Look, we've all been there, right? You type a prompt, and the AI spits out this beautifully structured, articulate response. It looks so authoritative. It has bullet points, confident phrasing, maybe even citations. Our natural human instinct is to just inherently trust it because it looks perfect. But here is the harsh reality. A beautiful presentation absolutely does not guarantee a factual foundation. And that disconnect is one of the single biggest professional risks you face when using generative AI today. So, welcome to Episode 3 of the AI Survival Guide for Non-Tech Professionals, brought to you by JoyFuture.ai. I am so glad you're joining this explainer today because we are tackling a massive challenge: why AI makes things up and how to catch it. Throughout this explainer, we're going to peel back the curtain. We'll look at why confidence is actually a terrible measure of AI reliability. We're going to break down how these models actually operate behind the scenes, why they sometimes fail so spectacularly while still sounding incredibly smart, and most importantly, how you can build a solid verification habit, a habit that protects your professional reputation without sacrificing the incredible speed and creativity that AI brings to your workflow. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the confidence trap, then dive into the 5 reliability problems. After that, we'll cover the verification ladder, look at a practical market entry case study, and wrap up with mastering evidence discipline.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the confidence trap.
So, as humans, we are completely hardwired to look for specific social cues to gauge someone's expertise, right? If someone speaks to us fluently, with great detail, and without any hesitation, we just assume they know exactly what they're talking about. But when we apply that exact same human standard to AI, we are walking right into a trap. You've probably heard the term hallucination thrown around. It's a very common term in the tech world, though honestly it makes the system sound a bit more human and emotional than it actually is. A much more practical definition for us is this: it's content presented as factual that is false, fabricated, or simply not supported by available evidence. We need to remember that the AI isn't some evil robot actively trying to deceive you. Not at all. Its core task is simply to generate a fitting continuation. Literally, it just predicts the next plausible word. When reliable facts are heavily represented in its training data, it gives you a stunningly accurate answer. But when that evidence is missing, obscure, or even just ambiguous, that exact same predictive engine just builds a plausible-sounding construction. It guesses. But the catch is, it guesses with absolute, unflinching conviction.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. Imagine you're prepping for a high-stakes client meeting. You're short on time, scrambling a bit, so you ask your AI to give you 5 recent court cases affecting your specific industry. In seconds, boom, it provides case names, dates, comprehensive summaries, and these really authoritative-looking legal citations. The list appears totally flawless. It looks perfectly ready to be copied and pasted right into your presentation deck. But when you actually take a magnifying glass to it, you discover that 2 of those cases simply do not exist, completely made up. Another citation points to a totally different legal decision. And a 4th case? Well, it was real, but it's been overturned. The terrifying part here is that the AI didn't hand you this information with a disclaimer or a little, "Hey, I'm not sure about this" hesitation. It delivered it with perfect professional formatting. So the takeaway here is that fluency is not a proxy for accuracy. AI models prioritize plausible continuations over actual verification, and if we rely on fluency as a signal of expertise, we will eventually get burned.
Moving on to Section 2, the 5 reliability problems.
You see, not every wrong answer has the exact same cause. There are actually 5 distinct reliability problems AI makes, and this is crucial because each one requires a completely different kind of fact-checking response from you. Let's walk through them. First up is fabrication. This is a purely fake detail, a non-existent source, a fake quote, or an event that literally never happened. To catch this, you have to do direct source checking. Second is outdated info. Now, the statement might have been 100% true 2 years ago, but maybe leadership has changed, laws have updated, or pricing has completely shifted. To catch this, you need current, up-to-the-minute research. Third is unsupported inference. This one is really tricky because the underlying facts are actually real, but the AI's conclusion leaps way beyond what that evidence actually justifies. This requires you to critically examine the logic and the reasoning. Fourth, we have blended sources. This is where the AI takes names, dates, and findings from totally separate events and sews them all together into one convincing but entirely false Frankenstein account. And finally, disagreement. Sometimes you ask a question that simply doesn't have one settled answer. Experts might disagree, or the evidence might be incomplete.
The AI error here isn't necessarily a fabricated fact, but rather presenting one highly contested view as if it is the uncontested universal truth. You really have to recognize these distinctions because your response as a professional must adapt to the specific type of error the AI is throwing at you.
And this naturally leads us to a really common, crucial question. It's something users constantly ask when they begin to doubt an AI's answer. When something looks just a little suspicious, our human instinct is to treat the AI like a human colleague and ask, "Are you sure?" We kind of expect the AI to step back, put on a different hat, and objectively verify its own work. But think about it. Is asking the AI, "Are you sure?" actually a valid way to verify its answer?
Well, to answer that, we need to look at the stark contrast between two completely different concepts: critique versus grounding. When you ask an AI, "Are you sure?" you are essentially just asking for a critique. And what happens? Sometimes the AI will apologize and change its answer. Sometimes it will double down and confidently defend its original error. And sometimes it just replaces one hallucination with a brand new one. Self-correction can be useful if you're asking the AI to maybe test a math calculation or critique a draft of a generic email. But, and this is a golden rule you need to remember, a second-generated answer is not a second source. The system is still working from the exact same learned patterns inside its neural network. Actual verification requires grounding. Grounding means explicitly connecting the claim to independent outside evidence. That means looking at a primary document yourself, querying a reliable external database, checking an official web page, or consulting a qualified human expert. You absolutely must step outside the AI's isolated bubble to confirm the truth.
All right, let's move to Section 3, the verification ladder.
Now, to apply this idea of grounding efficiently, without completely slowing down your work, we need a scalable solution. We call it the verification ladder, and it helps you match your verification effort directly to the stakes of the task. At step 1, we have low-stakes tasks. Think brainstorming marketing titles, reorganizing your messy meeting notes, or generating alternative phrasing for an email. Here, you basically just review for usefulness. Exhaustive fact-checking is usually a waste of time. Step 2 is routine factual work. This might be an internal meeting brief, a quick summary, or a general market overview. Here, you need to sample check important claims. You want to require links to source documents and confirm specific dates and names. Then we jump to step 3, consequential work. Now the stakes are high. We're talking legal, medical, financial, or safety decisions. Your public reputation is literally on the line. At this level, AI can assist in the drafting, sure, but it absolutely cannot be the final authority. You need authoritative primary sources, fully documented reasoning, and explicit human approval. And finally, step 4 is automated action at scale. If an AI output is going to automatically affect hundreds of customers, employees, or patients without you seeing every interaction, you must thoroughly test its performance before deployment, strictly monitor for errors after deployment, and most importantly, assign a human owner who is ultimately accountable for whatever that system does.
So the underlying concept here is the principle of proportionality. It's really just about working smart. Applying legal-grade forensic verification to a brainstorming list of blog post titles, that is a massive waste of your valuable time. It kills the productivity gains of AI. But applying a casual brainstorming-grade review to a medical, financial, or legal claim, that creates a catastrophic risk for you and your organization. The verification ladder empowers you to recognize exactly when human authority and rigorous checking are absolutely non-negotiable.
Let's see this in action in Section 4, a market entry case study.
To see how this ladder works in a daily corporate setting, imagine a leadership team is considering a major business expansion into Singapore. They ask the AI to produce a comprehensive brief covering market size, licensing rules, competitors, and consumer behavior. The AI spits out this beautifully formatted 10-page document. Now, instead of treating that entire document as either 100% trustworthy or 100% useless, which is what a lot of people do, a smart team separates the AI's output into specific claim types. First, look at the strategic claims. These might be potential partners or entry models. Treat these purely as hypotheses. They are fantastic inputs to spark human thinking, but they are not absolute facts. Second are the factual claims, things like market size, corporate tax rates, or a competitor's revenue. The action required here is strict. You must check sources and dates, tracing them back to official government agencies or company financial filings. Third, we have interpretive claims. So if the AI says Singaporean customers prefer premium foreign brands, you must demand evidence and qualification. Which customers? In what specific product category? Based on what study? And finally, recommendations. If the AI concludes you should enter the market through a joint venture, that requires human judgment. The AI can structure the analysis for you, but the leadership team must own that final decision, considering all the unwritten nuances, politics, and risks. By dissecting the business document in this highly structured way, a disciplined team can use AI to radically accelerate the first 60% of their research process. I mean, it is a massive productivity booster. But the danger lies right at the finish line. You cannot confuse a fast, articulate synthesis with completed, rigorous due diligence. It's an illusion of completion. You have to train yourself and your team to treat AI output as a highly structured starting point, a really good first draft to be audited rather than the final, unassailable authority on the matter.
Now let's dive into Section 5, Joy's perspective on generation versus judgment.
What's really interesting here is how we have to mentally separate the way we interact with these tools. We have to separate the creative, expansive freedom of generation mode from the exacting, cold discipline of judgment mode. The absolute best way to use generative AI is to deliberately, consciously switch between these two states. When you're in generation mode, you want to invite breadth. You want the AI to give you wildly different possibilities, strange structures, out-of-the-box questions, varying scenarios, and messy first drafts. You want it to be expansive and unconstrained. But then, you must consciously flip the switch in your brain into judgment mode. Here, you become incredibly demanding. You ask, what is the specific evidence for this sentence? Is this data actually current as of today? What vital context is obviously missing here? Which underlying assumption, if proven wrong, would completely change this entire conclusion? Problems arise in organizations when the effortless ease of generation mode quietly and subtly replaces the hard work of judgment mode.
As Joy points out, a beautiful, perfectly formatted answer creates a false feeling of completion. It makes you feel like the work is already done, before the real critical thinking is even started. Now, I don't believe the solution is to become completely cynical and distrust everything the AI produces. If you do that, you'll lose all the competitive benefits. The actual solution is that we have to break a deeply ingrained human habit. We must stop using confidence and fluency as a proxy for truth, period. Your trust must be earned, and it must come exclusively from the quality of the independent evidence and your own verification process.
Which brings us to Section 6, Organizational Verification Standards. This individual discipline we just talked about, it has to scale up into organizational standards, especially if you're a leader. First, you need to clearly define approved sources and establish firm rules for when citations are absolutely required in internal documents. Your team shouldn't be guessing about the standard of proof. Make it crystal clear. Second, when you are evaluating new AI tools for your company, do not just sit back and watch a polished, perfectly scripted vendor demonstration. You need to build difficult test cases using your own messy, complex, real-world company data. Include all the strange exceptions your business deals with. Document exactly where the system fails. And most importantly, you must foster a culture of transparency. Avoid at all costs a culture where employees feel they have to hide their AI use. We call this shadow IT. If people are secretly using AI to draft documents because they fear getting in trouble, they are never going to ask a colleague for help verifying the outputs. Responsible transparency makes proper, rigorous review possible. Secrecy just pushes unchecked mistakes downstream until they blow up in front of a major client.
And that brings us to our final section, Mastering Evidence Discipline.
I want to give you a strong, actionable checklist for your daily workflow. Honestly, you should pin this to your monitor. Before relying on any consequential AI output, force yourself to run through these 5 practical verification questions. Number 1, categorize it. Is this statement a hard fact, a logical inference, a strategic recommendation, or just a creative idea? Knowing what it is tells you exactly how to check it. Number 2, what original independent source supports it? And remember our golden rule, a second AI prompt is not a second source. Number 3, is it current? Is this information still applicable to the situation today? Number 4, assess the blast radius. What is the actual harm to the business, the client, or your reputation if this specific claim is wrong? This dictates where you belong on that verification ladder. And number 5, who is the human being qualified and ultimately accountable to approve its use? By running through this quick checklist, you ensure that you're letting hard evidence, not algorithmic eloquence, determine your trust.
Look, your ultimate survival skill in this new era of work is evidence discipline. Use the AI's incredible fluency and speed to move faster than ever before, but never, ever let that speed bypass your critical judgment. Practice this discipline daily. Make it a core part of your professional brand. And as you master this, you'll be perfectly primed for our next explainer, where we will uncover exactly what AI knows, what it remembers, what it forgets, and what actually happens when organizations finally connect these powerful models to their own proprietary data. It's going to be fascinating. Until then, remember the mission. Understand AI, apply AI, lead with AI. Thank you for joining me for this explainer from JoyFuture.ai. Now I'll leave you with this.